But as far as science fiction, I am safely saying that the whole world will put it in the top 10. So having said that, it is a huge influence on our culture and also society because of the themes that are involved in that story. And for someone to come along and say that they wrote the original, that's pretty heavy. When I first found out about it, and by the way, this is going to be my story of it because I've been pulled in to being a part of it, and I didn't want to be a part of it. I wasn't looking to be a part of it. And I'm going to explain all that so you can realize why it's a fateful thing. And I said in the initial video of this series, I said that it's by destiny. So this is not the Thomas Althouse story anymore. You have to consider it from a more full perspective. This is the entire story now. And I'm going to give you all the facts. I'm not going to, hi. Someone said hi, Joe. I'm going to give you the facts. And I'm going to take short out of this. Shorts, you can take a cut like 15 seconds, and those usually get a lot of views because people do that. They scroll, and they see something, and they usually don't watch the full version. Obviously, I understand that. But when I first found out about this ripoff, this claim, and it is a claim because it's also been in court, so legally it is a claim. And that all the details about that are in the court record. So this went to a court, and Thomas Althouse talks all about that. So I'm not disputing it, but what I will say is that when you do a Google search or any other web search, they're always emphasizing the fact that in that year, the court case was lost by Thomas Althouse. It was lost because the judge said he didn't find any connection. It was like such a far cry from the Matrix. I think he might have read the first paragraph of Althouse's script in order to say that. I don't think that the judge was correct. I don't think that the judge was fair. And you would expect from a judge to get justice. And justice means that it helps you and it helps everybody to know the truth. But I don't think that the judge did that. So Google is going along with that as they usually do. They take that main line. They're not trying to change anything because it only pays them to support like the basic mainline or mainstream propaganda, if you want to call it that. So because I say all these things, like I gravitate toward the side of Thomas Althouse, wanting to support what he's saying. And I was basically one of the first people who started to talk with him when he came out to the public. So this is already years ago. I can literally say it's more than 5 years ago. Okay, I can give you all the specifics. We have all the paperwork on that, and that's very important to me. You know why? Because not to toot my horn, but you see, we have to get the facts. I'm the one that started the documentary about this to the public. Not Thomas Althouse. All he wanted to do was to talk to interviewers. He's a talker. But here's the problem. And I told him this when I first met him. You don't go out and do a lot of talking until the movie comes out. So he said, "Oh, wait a second. What movie?" I said, "The movie of your story." And he was like, "Oh, I never knew it was the movie of my story." I said, "Listen, the story that you're telling is more important and bigger than the Matrix itself. So put that in your pipe and smoke it." So listen to that concept. You got the Matrix movie, which is a blockbuster. Almost everybody knows about it. Maybe somebody in Kazakhstan doesn't know about it. But I'm just getting a text. Hold on, I gotta shut this down. Shut. Okay, okay, great. Yeah, don't want any distractions while I do the live. So everybody knows the Matrix is huge. And when I first heard the story, because I was talking with Thomas Althouse in depth, and I said, this is really. I'm seeing some text here, some chat. What are you doing this week? I'm working, trying to survive real according to my philosophy of life. Can I say? I know I can't say that. I don't even know what the word that is. So I said, your story is more important than the Matrix because it's so unbelievable that Hollywood would do that and do it in the way that they did. Because I understood now the comparison between the Matrix and the Immortals. And I was like, wow, they really twisted the story. Why did they do that? And let me give you one example. The original The Immortals has Jesus Christ at the ending of the movie, the climax of the movie. Jesus Christ arrives and makes everything right again. He saves the world. So if you notice, there's no Jesus Christ in the Matrix. They totally took out that part of the story. And what did they do? They made Jesus Christ into Neo. Neo is the Christ figure, and that's absolutely proven within the movie itself. Like you can listen to the quotes of the movie, like remember in the beginning where the group comes to his door and they knock on the door and they're like Neo, and they're like, "You're the one, like, you're my own personal savior." So they say something like that. Remember the guy with the white rat? They had the white rabbit tattoo, and Neo was to give him like the secret file. Like he had a disc, and he would give him like what they needed because they were all hackers. They were all against the system, and it was all like underground and illegal. And Neo was a part of that, even though he was like keeping a day job and he was working in that big office building. So if you recall, the movie, that's just one of the examples where the dialogue points out that Neo is Jesus Christ. That the guy that came to the door spells it out. So when I saw all these things that Hollywood had done to change the movie, I had to say, well, maybe they have a good reason to change it. Maybe they were improving it. Then I looked more carefully and it was like, no, no, no. They twisted it around. This is not the original intention of Thomas Althouse. So they hijacked a really pure original script. Okay. So, again, everything I'm telling you is very supportive of Mr. Althouse. And I talked with him for a couple years. And this is all background talk. The reason why you don't know about it is because when that was going on, I didn't release it. I wasn't like sitting there filming him and releasing a 5-minute video or a 30-minute video of us talking. like all the other interviewers do. I didn't do that. See, this is the breach of contract, is what I'm starting to release to the public, and I'm getting ready to file this in court. And I've already told Thomas Althouse that this is what's going to happen when I'm ready. And it's not like this is the only thing I do, okay? Because Thomas Althouse is a one-trick pony. Like, underline that. That's a Tasciotti quote. He's a one-trick pony. He doesn't have any other scripts. He keeps claiming he's got 13 other scripts. I know what it's like to have 13 other scripts. You look me up, just do a Google search on me. I know what it's like to have a lot of things going on and be too busy. So I'm sorry, don't blame me for not bringing a lawsuit against Thomas Althouse quicker than what I'm doing. I just don't have the time for it until it gets to my schedule, right? Until I have an opening in my schedule. But let me talk to you about the whole issue that Hollywood took the movie and the changes that they made, because the original and by the way, I've read the Immortals screenplay, the 100 and I think it's like 130 pages. I read it. He gave it to me. So I know what's on every page of that. The thing where and during an interview, he always holds up the copy with the gold seal on it. He always holds it up. I read the whole thing, right? So before anyone else interviewed him, I already was on that. And let me tell you why it matters. The breach of contract, because also in Hollywood, they follow contracts, and Thomas Althouse does not know how to follow contracts. I think that's probably why they didn't want to deal with him in the beginning, because he's kind of, not only told you he's a one-trick pony, he's a loose cannon. He's such a loose cannon that look at how many interviews he's got to do. Like, he will do videos until kingdom come, not to use a word against the Bible, but he's just going to continuously keep talking. And you got to talk the talk, but it's more important to walk the walk. And he doesn't do that. He doesn't walk the walk. He has a contract with me, an exclusive, original, prior contract, not to talk about this stuff until the documentary is fully produced and released to the public. Like, yeah. Let's think about the way they do movies in Hollywood. Do you think that the main actor or actress or the writer goes out and talks to um, Jimmy Kimmel or Conan O'Brien before the movie's even finished? Like, just not even started filming, and this guy's going on a talk circuit to everybody and spilling the beans. So you don't do that. Hollywood doesn't do that. If they do it, it's in such a limited what. Oh, Gio Gioiella Akula says maybe you should try writing a book. Yeah, yeah, it is a book. Look it up. It's not held, not promoted by any major publisher, but yeah, I did write a book, and that's the basis screenplay. And you can look it up. It's there. It's available. Aslan is the Christ figure in the Chronicles of Narnia. Yes, thank you very much for mentioning that. Aslan is the great big talking lion. So that comes from the Jesus Christ symbolism also. And I would even tell you, look into another really big science fiction uh, epic, Star Wars. If you know, like, Darth Vader was turned to the dark side, but Darth Vader originally started out as being the great hope of all the Jedis and all the universe, or that particular galaxy that they were in, right? So what happened to him? Why did Darth Vader become the evil right-hand man of the Emperor? How did that happen? He started out as being totally good, and his name is Anakin. So it's interesting that they always use the word A, the letter A in the name, and it ends with N. And I find that in many of the most popular uh, epic stories of our time. So I would compare Anakin to Aslan, but the really the complicated twist is that Anakin turns to the dark side. So um, I don't know why they did that, but it makes it more interesting, kind of, as a story. I really feel like that George Lucas took like such a negative view on Anakin. He could have been good the way they found him. He was his child prodigy. He's was considered the savior. Then they put in that genetic thing. I forget what they call it, but there was a genetic thing in his blood and his DNA that showed that he was the savior that they were looking for. Star Wars could have turned out totally different if Anakin stayed as the good Christ that he could have been. So anyhow, Neo, also with an N, but not an A, except that his name is Thomas Anderson. I'm sorry, that it is with an A and with an N at the end. So you see, there's so many examples of a Messiah figure or a savior, a hero of the story being with an A in the name, and the name ends with N. That's also in my book. So the contract that I made with Mr. Althouse, Thomas Anderson, Mr. Anderson, no, Mr. Althouse, the contract that I made with him was such that we would produce a documentary of the whole thing that happened from 1992, 93 up through the 1999 release of The Matrix and then beyond, because he did the court case, and I think the court case ended in 2013. Just off the top of my head, I really should look up the exact date on that. And up until now. So he started doing all of his interviews in the past more than 5 years. So up until now, 2025, all these interviews. But I said in the contract, and I had explained to him, before I am able to finish the documentary of all this stuff that happened, can't talk about it. You can't go out to every interviewer. There's a guy, well, I'm not going to name any names yet, but there's people that have been talking to him like it's their career depends on it. Like, they're so hungry to hang on every one of his words. In the beginning, when he was doing interviews, he was telling the interviewer about me, and I didn't like what he was saying, and he quickly skirted around the whole issue because he realized, like, oh, that's too directly going on about it. He used to say that he'd say Peter is to me. He's a plant. Peter's another one of these plants. He even was telling the interviewers, Peter is with Spielberg. Like he literally was. By the way, like I'm gonna get all that and test him on this in the court because why would you breach a contract in the first place? Somebody who it just boggles my mind. But I can explain to you really why it's going on. Because this guy, Thomas Althouse, has nothing to do with the movie industry. He has spent his whole life claiming that he's with the movie industry and he's this great inspiration for the Matrix and all this and that. The guy couldn't make a movie to save his life. With all the technology now that everybody's making videos, and by the way, I was the president of YouTube, the first president of YouTube when it first, but the reason why it makes sense to talk about it right now is because it's about making videos, and that was the whole thing to compete with Hollywood. When YouTube first came out, it was shocking, and it got them shaking in their boots because they were like, "Oh." So in the first few years, when I was the president and I was developing the whole thing and promoting it to number one, came out of nowhere. Of course, it wasn't number one to begin with. It was like way, way, way down, and I started telling about it, and they gave me one of the first 100 contracts went out into the world was to yours truly. I had 6 contracts, not just one. Most of the producers got one contract. I got 36 contracts. So I was very pleased, and I'm very thankful. The one, number one, God, and I worked very hard. I was going to say my butt, but I don't like saying that kind of phrase. But I worked extremely diligently. I worked like 16-hour shifts. I put out more videos than any other producer. So why am I telling you this? Because Thomas Althouse doesn't make videos. He doesn't make movies. I'm telling you the absolute fact. It's a provable fact. And nobody can prove that Thomas Althouse makes videos or movies because he doesn't. Because there's nothing out there. You can search for it, you can ask him, and there's nothing out there. But what he does do is he'll entice you to make a video of him. That's what he'll do. But he's not a movie maker. He's not a producer. He's not those things. So that's why it doesn't boggle my mind everything that went on with Hollywood. It's just truly understandable that they saw a guy back in the days, not today, when they first encountered Tom Althouse, they just saw a guy. He's not going to cooperate. He's not going to stick to a contract. He doesn't have what it takes to make a movie. So they were like, we're going to steal from him. I'm sorry to say, it's easy for someone like that to be victimized and then turn around and be like, well, I don't know why it happened. Let me just keep talking about it like a victim. It's one of the biggest sob story of victimhood that's ever come along. And you know what? I'm a bleeding heart, and I fell for it, and I was like, this is a documentary because it is still. I'm not changing my stance on it. It is a great, great uh, movie story. It is very compelling, very emotional. Um, but I think beyond that, it tells you about how the movie industry works, how it's underhanded, and how it's somewhat criminal. It also tells you a lot about the nature of reality because the theme of the movie is Matrix and the illusion and what's controlling everything. Like how does the system control everything? So uh, there was a lot of things all combined in this that made me really believe that it's going to be a great movie to put out there. It's a movie about a movie. It's a documentary about how the movie The Matrix was created through very questionable methods, criminal, in fact. But whether or not you can call it criminal, see, that's the thing with the court system. There's criminal and there's civil, and they divide it between those two. And it's really, then they got family courts, which is kind of a slightly different thing. But there's civil and there's criminal, civil and criminal, civil and criminal. And by the way, family courts are within, it's a civil division. Uh, Criminal cannot be invoked or cannot go into the criminal courts because you have to get a prosecutor, you have to get police involved. There has to be some official put it in front of the judge, which I'm saying they would put the producers and put the movie studios in front of the judge, and they're not going to do that. So it's all going to be a civil matter, and it, even though you can still call it a crime, like it legally it's not a crime, but it is injustice, it's theft of intellectual property, which is a crime, but you have only civil action in the civil lawsuit to use for remedy. But anyhow, this is getting all technical. I'm not doing my lawyer video right now. You can watch that. I did that yesterday, or the past few days. I've been releasing what I know about law. When it comes to the contract, I am reiterating. So I'm going to wrap this up pretty soon. I'm reiterating that when I met Thomas Althouse, before he was doing all these videos, before he was doing the interview. Yeah, I'm going to be with you in a couple minutes.
Huh?
I'll be with you in a couple minutes.
Are you busy on the phone?
Yeah.
You do any recording on the television at all?
Do I do recording on the television?
Yeah.
From
television?
From the television?
Yeah.
You can do that if you want to. If you're not going to be able.
You don't do it right now, do you?
I haven't done it lately. No.
Okay, you haven't done it lately.
I know how to do it.
All right.
So essentially, when he went out doing all those interviews, it was specifically in spite. He did that to spite me and go out and take over the whole idea of the documentary. Let me underline why this is important, why this is a lawsuit, and why Thomas Althouse has done wrong. Let me just spell it out. Because he agreed to do my documentary of it. And as the producer, it's very important that you handle these things in the right way to get the production done and not to leak out information and do interviews every month continuously. Like, no, buddy, we're supposed to be working on the movie. We don't have time to go out and do interviews to the public. This is like actual work. And this tells you that Thomas Althouse is just a talker. He just likes to go out and talk. And don't point the finger at me, because I did, before Google canceled me in 2016. I was the first YouTube president with the first 36 contracts of content creator contract, and I had put out 8,000 videos. So some of them just came back up. I have a channel, Mystery, that has about 3,000 videos. It just came back up because the AI made a decision to reinstate it, and it had been down for 9 whole years. So the thing is, I know how to get movies done. I'm a producer. I started out and bring people up into bigger and better things because they get a lot of training through me. When I met Althouse, I told him basically the same thing, because of my experience, because of my knowledgeability, because of my skills. And I told him, I said, you can't go out and just talk about this to everybody. This is not a talk show subject. This is a movie subject, a serious documentary. What's underlining that for you is that he never thought about it that way. That's my idea. And the contract proves that. The timing proves it. He came to my house and met my family. We went to the government and started a company. We went to a bank to start a bank account. All these things show that I was handling this in a professional way with the structure, not about, oh, let me go talk to this, let me talk to this one, let me keep going around like a chicken with your head cut off, even though you can't talk. A chicken can't talk if its head got cut off. But anyhow, not to use a wrong analogy. Um, I just want to produce the documentary, but now I have to do a lawsuit. Now I have to let everybody know in the blogosphere and on YouTube and every other platform that they've been in breach of contract, and according to the civil system, a legal system, you become a third party defendant. Now, you can come into court and you can say you didn't know anything about it. Um, you can plead the fifth, whatever you want to do. But what I would ask everyone to do, and I have already asked several of these interviewers, and I said several, and I'm getting to around to asking the biggest one is Roseanne Barr. So if any one of you out there want to tell Roseanne Barr that she maybe unknowingly did wrong, but she's a third party defendant now. Thomas Althouse is in breach of contract to go on to the Roseanne Barr show and talk about what happened to him. I would like the judge to give a preliminary in there, and that would be a gag order. That would stop Thomas Althouse from talking anymore until everything has been settled. Now, that's going to be something that he really doesn't like. So, anybody who's in contact with Thomas Althouse, you let him know that so he can understand that I haven't forgotten what he did. I haven't forgotten that he did this in spite of me. And the documentary is not his idea. He stole the idea from me. So you have a guy named Mr. Thomas Althouse pointing the finger at all these producers in Hollywood. He needs to point the finger back at his own self and understand that he stole my documentary movie idea. Uh, it's kind of a hypocrite, isn't it? Althouse is a hypocrite. That would be hypocrisy. If he's going to accuse everybody in Hollywood of stealing something from him, why does he go then to steal something from me? He had no intention to make a documentary movie. But instead of cooperating and doing a great thing, which would be great for himself, he just shot himself in the foot. He decided after that, spitefully, to go out and talk to everybody. And that would be his documentary. Now, how is there a cohesive, great documentary being made by going to every possible random channel, like chaotically, and talking about things in a different sequence, a different order? How is that going to be a great documentary? That's not a great documentary. I'll tell you what it is. And I speak to all the interviewers out there. So this is what you've been waiting for. I'm not against any of you. And you just, wow, the connection was going long and it's still going. Okay. Wow. How do I end this? I don't even know how to end this.